And then he just kind of put me in my place a little bit. Like, you don't have it all figured out yet, man. Like, stay humble. Like, and so there was a huge chip on my shoulder. But the thing about like having like not a great relationship with your dad and stuff like that is like I found that in other older men as I was in my 20s, like key men that I really trusted. Jerry Christian was one of them. He helped me get started. Dennis Campbell was another one. He was older. Brother Ken Barr here at church. Just Pastor Doug Hammett was a huge part of, I mean, when I lost my daughter, Doug Hammett was like, he was my rock. I mean, he was supportive and loving and kind, and he spent weeks on end. I mean, probably a whole year on the phone with me every week, talking to me about this losing your daughter. And he lost his dad when he was really young, and so he had a real relatable, like, a feeling about it, experience about losing someone that you love a lot and how that affects your life. And boy, if I didn't have those kind of men in my life during that season, I can't even imagine. Like, that was really special and important to me.
Wow, that's awesome
to have that. And it's funny because I just read a book called Strength to Strength about transitioning in the second chapter of your life, which is they say above 40. And I feel like that's something now that I want to make sure I do too, because like those men did it for me and it really helped me. And you see all these young kids coming up, like my son who's only 19 years old. And I wanted maybe one day for them to say the same thing. Like, I was really struggling in my 20s and I had an older guy come along and talk to me and help me. And that's so important. So important to have men in your life that you really trust, that'll talk to you and help you and you can be honest with and tell the truth to about everything in your life. And they'll challenge you. A funny story with Dennis Campbell is many years later after I had started it, I had won my first sales Agency of the Year award, where our agency was the #1 producing agency in the country. And he took me out to dinner to celebrate. And I spent the entire time talking about myself, like how great I was. And I'm so great, and I did all these great things, and I'm so proud of myself, and no one's ever going to beat me. I mean, I'm full of myself. And he said, wow, you really like writing a headline about yourself and then telling everyone about it, don't you? And I was like, wow, that was harsh. Like, I'm telling him how excited I am. He's like, and then he just kind of put me in my place a little bit. Like, you don't have it all figured out yet, man. Like, stay humble. Like, I'm glad you're doing well. But number one, be humble. Number two, there's more. You haven't figured it all out. There's more to go here. And he just challenged me in that way. Like, and that's good to have an older guy in your life to say, settle down, Junior.
Especially somebody that like wants your best interest and like actually cares about you.
Years later, he told me, I knew exactly what I was telling you. I was telling you what you needed to hear. The last thing you needed to hear at that point was, yeah, you're so great, you're so awesome. You didn't need to hear that.
Yeah.
You needed to hear, settle down. You don't have it all figured out. Another famous saying from him is, there are other ways than going for someone's jugular to solve a problem. Because that was always me. Like, I would go right to what the answers were, and I'd be direct, and I'd be bold. And in a way, that is good. I mean, there's some good in that. In another way, it really can really hurt people and not be good. And so just a lot of those things he taught me through my 20s, like how to be a man, how to navigate problems in a mature way, how to not be emotional and respond emotionally, like how to be the one who's in control in the room. Like, he taught me all that.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was very cool.
And how much older was he?
Very older. So
okay.
When I'm 30, he's 65. So I'm talking about some guy that's 35 years older than I am.
But he had to like gain your respect in a way so that you would actually listen to him. Because a lot of young people, especially if they're doing well, especially if they feel they're doing better than you, it's like they're not going to listen to you.
Yeah, you want to know what he did? He loved me. And I knew it. I knew he loved me. He really admired me and loved me and cared about me. And so when you love someone and the person really feels that way, then they can be pretty harsh with you. They can be pretty direct with you when they need to be, bold with you when they need to be. And he was at times. I mean, I would make big mistakes and do things that were stupid, and he would call me out on it and challenge me. And then the next day he'd be like, I'm so proud of you. You're amazing. You're doing great work. It was good. And it was good, like, because, that also taught me, like, how to be an adult with different point of views.
Yeah.
Like, Dennis had a really strong, different point of view. He was a staunch Catholic, but had a strong faith, but definitely different than what I believed. But I just realized, like, you don't have to be a baby when it comes to people feeling differently or thinking differently or having different perspectives. Like, you can work together with people that think differently. That's okay. You can both have strong opinions and both respect each other and both even accomplish great things together. And it really helped me too with this church, because in the beginning you said, like, hey, you stayed. And a lot of people didn't stay. A lot. In my era, a ton of people, if not almost everybody that I
Wow.
grew up with, was gone. Like, they left and they didn't stay. And to this day, many times when I meet people at this point, they're like, "You're still at Lehigh Valley Baptist Church? Like, you haven't left that place yet?" I think, number one, it's a great church. Okay, so the problem really isn't with the church. The problem would be with me if I'm going to leave. But the other thing is, what I learned there and nationwide and in the world was, like, you can be someplace where there's a disagreement, where you don't see eye to eye, but don't be a child and just flush it all down the toilet just because there's some disagreements. Like, okay, then just work through it, respect each other, and keep your eye on the main goal. Like, what's the main goal? What are you trying to accomplish together? And, like, I felt that at this church, like, especially when you're younger. When you're 20 and you've been brought up in this the way I was brought up in it, and you had some of the critical feelings about it the way I had critical feelings about it, it's really easy to get all caught up in yourself and what you think and what you feel and what your preferences are, and just say, I'm going to go find a better church that I like, that makes me happy, and all that other stuff. But then I saw this example over in the work side where, like, wait a minute, you're growing right now because you're being challenged. You're growing because it's hard. And you're becoming a better person and a more successful person, not because everyone's coddling you and telling you everything you want to hear, but because you're being challenged. So why, again, are you having problems with the Lehigh Valley Baptist Church? Well, because I'm being challenged. Wait a minute, you like it over there and it's working for you over there. Why wouldn't you like it over here too?
And I was just talking about this with somebody yesterday. I was like, to get saved, you have to humble yourself. You have to come to the end of yourself. But it's kind of like the starting point of doing that, because to stay faithful in church and serving God, you're going to have so many opportunities to be offended and find ways to leave.
Yeah.
And so I just went over that with somebody yesterday. Psalm 119, verse 165, great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them.
Yeah.
And, just you have to get used to, especially if you're going to be challenged, hey, there's going to be some, I'm going to get hit along the way. I'm going to, not physically, but I'm going to, take some punches or whatever. It's not going to be easy all the time. I'm going to not enjoy it. It's going to be very uncomfortable, but this is the best thing for me.
Well, you better, I mean, I don't know. To me, it's like the most happy, successful life is one where this is a huge part of your life. Just because I don't see eye to eye, just because I disagree, does not mean I am leaving the situation. Think about how many things in your life, like when you have a family, you know how hard it is to have teenagers? You know how much you feel in your heart, like, this is too hard, or I don't want to do this. But then having, like, the principle in your heart, well, what does that have to do with what I need to do? I still need to be here. I still need to do this, whether I agree or I'm happy or any of those things. This is my job. This is where God put me, and I'm doing it. And in your marriage, how many times are you going to disagree with your wife? How many times are you not going to see eye to eye or be treated a certain way? Just having that principle in your life, like, these are my relationships that matter to me. And yeah, we're going to have some issues we got to work through, but we're never leaving each other. And that's how I feel about this church. It's like Doug Hammond, such a formative force in my life in my early 20s. And I grew up hating him. I thought he was an old fuddy-duddy. I thought he was way too strict. I thought he was arrogant and harsh and all these things, like, through my teenage years, because he was my pastor through all my teenage years. But then I changed. I got saved. He showed some interest to me in that point too, like encouraging me after I got saved, which I was like, well, why is this guy that I don't even like being nice to me and encouraging me that I got saved? But then I lost my daughter, and I saw something, like, this guy that I had a whole view of who he was And he showed me, I'm somebody that you don't understand. You don't understand what kind of love I can give somebody. You don't understand what kind of support I can give somebody. You don't understand, like, I care about you as a person in my church. And that just blew my mind because I was like, that's not who I thought you were. Like, I thought you were this different person. And it just also taught me a lesson, like, you don't really know everybody completely.
Yeah.
You think you understand. You think you can size people up. Someone like me thinks very much in that, especially at that point in my life.
Especially in your 20s, a lot of
I can size you up in
20-year-olds.
2 seconds, know
Yeah.
exactly who you are.
Exactly.
I don't need to go deeper. That is a big mistake. That is a big mistake. Some of the best relationships that I have are relationships that initially I thought, oh, you're not my kind of person. But I gave them, like, I kept my heart open to seeing who they were and asking questions about who they were and learning about who they were. Like, that's how I'm at this church. I'm at this church because I started to really just ask questions and listen and get to know people and care. And,
That's awesome.
And yeah, is this church perfect? No. My goodness, no. I mean, what's perfect? Nothing's perfect. That can't be the standard. Like, I'll come to the church as long as everything is the way I think it should be. Well, first of all, that's a bit egocentric.
Can't be perfect for everybody.
Yeah, that's egocentric, right? It's like, well, perfect for you. The next person over would say, your perfect is my misery.
Exactly.
So, and then just realizing, like, it's not about me. Lehigh Valley Baptist Church and what goes on here ultimately has nothing, it's not about me. It's about Jesus Christ. And that's the question I asked myself when I was here. And I really started to get into, right into my early 20s. I really love this church. I think what I love about it, first of all, the leader is, the main leader, Roland, he's a great man. I know everybody here doesn't agree about everything on a lot of issues. But I feel like there's a real good spirit of, like, unity here. Like, we all kind of understand this is a special place and we want to keep the main thing. And we're kind of mostly, not that there's probably some issues, but we strip ourselves of ourselves and we say it's about something bigger than ourselves. And to keep that going for as long as it's been going here, that's not easy to do. I mean, people and their egos and personal preferences and all that so easily can, like, start flowing into leadership,
things.
flowing into people. And the next thing you know, you've got all these schisms and upset feelings. And, we worked through that a few times in my time here. But the church is like, it's an awesome church. Really like this church a lot. And not because it makes me feel super comfortable. It doesn't. It makes me feel uncomfortable. There's lots of times I go home from Roland preaching and I think, so frustrated that he said that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so frustrated that that's the perspective he has. Like,
yeah.
But what it makes you do is it makes you think and it makes you study and it makes you ask questions.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to, like, get up every Sunday and you go, yeah, I agree 100% with that, and I like it, and it makes me happy.
Right.
Like, so I'll go home and just forget about it and move on. But I don't, the message on Wednesday night from
Ecclesiastes.
Sorry, Lamentations was in my head for some reason. Ecclesiastes. I mean, even yesterday, I'm still just going over that again and again and again in my head about what he said. Even that night, I had spent that day very dissatisfied with my current circumstances. That whole day. Just, I don't like where I'm at in this particular area with my teenagers. I just don't like where I'm at. I'm very frustrated. And then he preached that message about, hey. And the beauty of what he said, he didn't say it this way, but I'll say it this way about Lamentations. Why is my brain doing that? Say the verse. Say
Maybe
the chapter.
You should read that
verse. Say the chapter again.
Yeah.
Say it again. What's the book?
Ecclesiastes chapter 3.
Ecclesiastes, right. Stop saying Lamentation. Life is a gift. The whole package. It's a gift. To be able to be here, to be able to live, it's a gift. And life includes bad things, hard things, sad things. It includes good things, happy things, exciting things. But the whole thing is life. So, like, that's what I came away from. Like, that's life. Are you happy for life or not? Because you don't get to, like, pick it all to be good.
Wow.
It's a blend of both.
That's good.
And so even that night, like, his message really impacted how I chose to handle a situation, because, like, one of the situations with my daughter, and a little frustrated about whatever. And I remember looking at her out playing basketball after church that night. She was shooting hoops in our driveway. and I had these bad feelings about some of the things I wanted to whatever say or whatever. And I'm like, what did you just hear? What did you just hear about your life? Be thankful for this life, right? Okay, things aren't the best right now, whatever, but go out there and shoot some hoops with your daughter. Enjoy your life. Be there for her. Like, this is life. And I did. I went out and shot some hoops with her, and we actually ended up having a great discussion about some things and shooting some hoops, and I gave her a hug, and things were like, so like, if you just, it's a practical way that like what he's telling you, if you say to yourself, like, I really believe that, and I'm going to apply that. One of the things I've been saying to the kids lately is, are we Christians or are we not? Like, are we or aren't we? Because like
Exactly.
a Christian in reality is someone who applies what God says to their lives. If I don't apply it, if I don't ever do what God says to do, like, am I really a Christian? Like, Christian is someone who follows Jesus Christ and his example and follows God's word. And like, that's really struck me so much more in my 40s. Like, ask yourself that question. You're a Christian. So what does God really want you to do here? Because that's what Christians do. They ask themselves, what does God want out of the situation more and more? And so like just coming to those kind of realizations, it's so much supported by having a pastor like Pastor Roland and having a church like this church. I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah, when it comes to Ecclesiastes, it was funny. I was going to mention something about the message on Wednesday. I came in feeling very discontented with my situation.
You did on same thing?
Wednesday. It was literally going through my head all day. It was the main theme.
Same
and I
thing.
was just like, something's got to give. I don't like my situation. I was just these thoughts of like, like this is not my life. How can this happen right now? Like I'm more of like I've just kind of have grown up where things like I've dealt with a lot of crazy things and a lot of like just big things happen in my life and like something always exciting. Right now, that's not the case. It's just kind of, and I'm not used to that. And it's just, of course I've had times like that, and I understand in the Christian life, there's times where it's just going to be even keel. I did it for 5 years in Fargo Baptist Church. I mean, it was the same thing for 5 years. But, just being here, it's like the other day, it was Wednesday, and I was just all day. And then I came into the service, sit down, and he's like, literally I feel like the whole beginning of the message was, be content with your situation right now. Now, maybe you heard something different, but that's what I heard.
Yeah,
and I was
that's what I heard
just
too.
And I was like, did he just read my mind? Like,
Yeah.
that's when you know it's God.
Yeah.
It's like, this is God. He knew what was going to happen. He sat you down. I mean, I even went through a really hard breakup 4 years ago. I thought I was going to marry her and everything like that. It ended, and it was horrible. And it was the hardest thing I ever dealt with as a Christian. And I did not want to ever step back in church. This is just 5 years ago. Uh-huh. And I was still in Bible college. I still had to finish. And I had a conviction in my heart. I cannot miss church. After I got saved, I said, I'll never miss church. Well, this was the first time where it was like 10 minutes before the service. And I'm like, no. And I just could not miss church. So I went to the church and I'm like, okay, I'll stand out in the lobby. And I was just like, I just knew God wanted me to go in. So I went in, and it would just be like a message just for me. Yeah. And it was like, wow, that's when God loves you. He's there for you. Kind of like how you were saying Doug was during your hard time. It's like God has a way of showing you he's there. He doesn't have to physically be there and give you a hug. I mean, that would be cool, but he's there. He knows what's going on in your situation, and he's there to comfort you. That's just, I love that about the messages.